compare it to SARS in 2002 and 2003, what the main problem then was that the Chinese authorities reacted very slowly. So it cost them really reputation domestically. The people had the right impression that the authorities had not done anything they could have to protect them from the virus. This time, what you see is that the government is even more proactive and tries to particularly convey the message and the image that they are hands-on and
Building a
they're
hospital
fighting.
in 10
Yes,
days.
yeah. And there, I think you can see to some extent the advantages of an authoritarian state. That you can, I mean, how could you possibly close down the city of London? And Wuhan is bigger than London is.
Yeah.
The Chinese doing this fairly well. I mean, it's still hard for me to believe that they can really close down such huge cities, but apparently they can do it much better than we would be able to do so in Europe or in any democracy.
Yeah. Isn't that also like always the quote unquote benefit of having an authoritarian regime? They can really act quickly on specific problems.
No, it is. I mean, as our conversation will develop, I guess we will get into issues where you can see that it sort of the feedback loop might not always be the best.
Yeah.
But once they have identified a challenge, once it's sort of also clear what to do, what the steps are that you need to take, then of course an authoritarian regime like the Chinese one can be extremely effective. So from this angle, politically speaking, the coronavirus could even strengthen the government. At the same time, if you look at sort of how it all developed, you do see that local authorities in China have been very slow to report this in the beginning this time as well. So you see some parallels with SARS to some extent.
Is it because they fear the regime? It's like we have a virus. No, let's not say anything because that will bring a bad reputation to us.
Absolutely. It has to do with sort of the mechanisms of political authority in China, that if you are a local party cadre, or let me say it a bit more generally, if you want to make a career in a Chinese party state, you move from one post to another in quite short periods. There's one very interesting institution in China that is mostly overlooked in the West. It's called the Organization Department of the Chinese Communist Party. And the Organization Department is like the human resources department of the whole country. So what they appoint essentially all political officers, which means all leading political officers in the state institutions. That includes political offices in the sense that the mayor or the high-ranked party cadre. It also may include leading positions within the bureaucracy.
You really want to be their friends.
But it goes beyond that, you know? State-owned enterprises, who's managing that, decided by the organization department. The state-controlled media, who's the chief editor of state-controlled media, decided by the organization department. The chief of the party section within the university, decided by the organization department. And if you talk, just to give you an impression here, if you talk to, say, the head of a university department, the formal head, they will say, well, I mean, I can't really take any decisions without consulting the party committee. So that gives you an impression. So this organization department is really running the country. And usually a classical career in the state, party state of China, you can also see, if you look the CV of Xi Jinping, you will see exactly the same, but with all the other senior officials as well. You're rotating quite often from one position to another. And what the organization department does is they are sort of evaluating your performance. So you are just from a very rational personal point of view, you want to make sure you have a good track record in the like 2, 3, 4 years you're staying in a certain position.
Okay.
So, and if you're the local party official in Wuhan at the time, you really prefer not to have the coronavirus
On your CV,
in your municipality at this particular time. So there's an incentive not to report problems to the central authorities, which is sort of a first indication of what maybe the challenge of the authoritarian state is. Yes, once you have the right information, once everyone is interested in sort of tackling the challenge, it might be very quick. But sort of you need to get to the point where you have all the information. And there's incentives from the local party state very often to not report those challenges just for personal reasons. I mean, you may also say you want to have your own municipality in good condition. But I think if it was just for the benefit of serving the community, you would have higher incentives to report when there's problems so you can properly handle them. But if it's for private career-wise, it might be there might be an incentive to say nothing.